Thank you for watching this video. To best support the channel, please take a moment and click the subscribe button. Also, the links to purchase this fly and the materials to tie the fly are in the description. Today we're tying up the NAD. It's a fly that I've really enjoyed fishing. I've personally caught corbina, red-tailed surf perch, yellowfin croaker, amongst other fish on this pattern. In the vise, we have a Partridge of Reddish Sea Prince hook, model CS52 in size 6. It's a solid hook for saltwater applications, and we're going ahead and using some classic wax thread from Semperfli and 6/0 to attach some small lead dumbbell eyes in gold, and we're just going to go ahead and put those about one dumbbell eye length behind the eye of the hook. We'll get those in place and we'll walk them down with some wraps that have gone both crossing over the top, and now we're doing some thread wraps underneath the eyes but over the hook to tighten our thread wraps. And we're going to go ahead and do some more crossing wraps, and I'll do one wrap behind my eyes, invert the hooks, and we're going to grab some super glue so that we can further secure these eyes in place. We want to make this fly as durable as possible. It's going to be cast into the surf and get beat up pretty heavily, so we want to make it as durable as we can. And I'll go ahead now and use the stem of my pheasant tail so that I can go ahead and spread out that super glue, get it all put nice into place. And we'll go back around and wrap some more times, further securing these eyes into place, pulling things tight, making sure those eyes don't wobble. And we will now grab a marabou feather. The marabou that we're using is some Fish Hunter marabou in hot orange. And we're going to measure out 1 full hook length plus a little bit more so that we can get our butt ends to go right up against the back of the lead dumbbell eyes. Gives you a very clean tie-in point. So we'll catch those ends with some thread wraps and then just work our way back, making sure to keep the marabou plume on top of the hook. And once that's cleaned up and tied in, we will just cover up our marabou with some red thread and give ourselves a nice clean tie-in point. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab some crystal flash in pink, and we're going to cut a single strand in half and tie that in on our side of the hook. So we have that doubled over so that we have 2 strands of crystal flash going down the middle of that marabou on our side. And you'll see I have a loop that's still exposed. We're going to clean that up in just a moment. And we'll go ahead and grab our second strand of crystal flash, rotate our hook a little bit, place it so that it's in that same halfway position, and lock down our crystal flash so that it stays into place. And once we have that locked into place, we'll go ahead and advance our thread forward. We'll grab our scissors and cut out those 2 exposed loops so we don't have those hanging out and messing up with what we're tying. Now that those are snipped off, we're going to go ahead and just clean up our base a little bit more, cover up any exposed marabou that's in there, and cover up all of our crystal flash. And then we'll go ahead and grab some flashabou in pearl. We'll grab 2 strands of flashabou, and I like using the entire strand of it so that I can build this body pretty thoroughly. And what we'll do is we'll tie those in by the tips, and we'll cover up all the way back to right where our marabou is, and then we'll advance our thread to right in front of the eyes. And what we'll do is we're just going to do nice tight touching wraps and cover up all of the thread wraps that we have right there. That builds a nice flashy core body. And try and keep the flashabou as close together as you can. If it separates apart a little bit, that's not a big deal because we're going to be going up and down this body a couple of times just to make sure that everything's covered in our pearl flashabou. And then once we have that fully covered, we're going to work our way back forward on the fly, and we're going to wrap the flashabou underneath the dumbbell eyes and do one wrap in front of them, and then use our thread to catch that with some crossing wraps. And then we'll go ahead and take our scissors and we will trim out our excess flashabou. From here, I'm going to do a quick whip finish. For those of you that are skilled with using your fingers to whip finish, please use your fingers. I just use the tool to make a quick whip finish right there so I can set my thread up to the side and have a cleaner point. From here, we're going to grab some Raid Zap Thick, and we're just going to apply that liberally to the top and bottom of this hook, and then use our pheasant tail stem once again to go around and spread out this resin so that we have a nice uniform and very durable body. And we do that just for making sure that this fly can last as long as it can up in those sandy environments where it's getting beat up pretty heavily. So I'll spread that around, use my rotary feature to get this to be easily accessible. Now that I have that, I'm just going to spin my fly forward and backward a couple of times, trying to get that resin to naturally settle in and smooth itself out. Once that self-levels, grab your UV light and start curing that resin. I do a quick zap at first, and then I slow things down just to help make sure things cure and stay in place where we want them to. Having a well-charged light is a very valuable tool at this point. And I'm sure that it was cured long before this time period, but I wanted to just give it a little bit extra just in case. Now that it's been cured, we're going to rotate our vise and lock it in place with the hook point above, just like it is now. And we're going to grab some craft fur, and the color on this craft fur is fluorescent orange. And we're going to take a small clump and tie that in so that it goes just to about the halfway point of our marabou tail. We're going to lock that in with it extended and then slide it back so we can have all of our tag ends covered up. And then we'll just go ahead and use our thread and lock that down nice and tight. I'm going to move my fingers out of the way and pull this down and back so that I can get a little bit more of the butt ends covered that are right next to those eyes, and cover up your exposed butt ends. Just going to preen those fibers out of the way a little bit better. And then our final piece to this fly, as far as materials we're adding in, are some fire orange and black barred silly legs. We're going to split a leg in half, and we're going to tie that in on top. I'm just cleaning up a couple of the spare strands of craft fur right there. So we'll lie those on top of our hook and have one on each side, and have those extend as long as you like in back, and then just have it so the barred ends are both pointing in the hook orientation up, and just use a really gentle wrap to lock things into place, and then you can move it back and get it locked in better with your tying thread at that point. So now that those are locked into place, I'm going to grab my scissors and pull these legs tight and snip them out one at a time so that we can have a smooth transition and finish this fly off. So we'll do some thread wraps, make sure that the rubber legs are all covered up. And then from here, we'll go ahead and grab our whip finish tool. And be careful, my whip finish tool and my thread just collided and caused it to come unravel, so be careful with that. So we're going to recover up some of those thread wraps, or recover up some of those legs real quick, and then grab our whip finish tool so we can tie these in. And we'll whip finish more towards the eyes rather than towards the eye of the hook, just to give a little bit more of a durable tie-in point. And now we'll go ahead and grab some Raid Zap Thin. We switched from our thick to our thin for this. And we're going to cover up the red thread here and give that a nice protective coating. Spread it around. I have a couple little air bubbles that I'm knocking out real quick. And then we'll grab our UV light and cure that into place. Then go ahead and invert once you have that cured in place, go ahead and flip your fly over so that it's back to its normal orientation, and cover up the thread wraps in between the lead eyes, and then cover up the nose or the head of the fly with some more resin, smooth that out. And just rotate it around a couple of times, trying to get it to self-level like we did earlier. Smooth a couple little pieces out with the stem again. Now that that's smoothed out, we'll go ahead and grab our UV light, turn it on, and start curing things once again. Once this is done, the fly is basically finished. My video ended before it was supposed to. To finish up the fly, trim your crystal flash to just beyond the tips of the marabou, and trim your rubber legs so they are just shy of the tips of your craft fur wing.